Hey guys, Moon Mike here with you today for a an uh interesting one. Um I figured since Burke, I have to keep an eye on the cats. I figured since the paperwork is gone through and everything, and well, to be blunt, my divorce is finalized. I figured it might be kind of therapeutic maybe to open up about some of the things that went wrong in that relationship. Um, Specifically because it was, I feel, a very toxic and abusive relationship, uh, emotionally and mentally, not not physically. And no, I was not the abuser. Um, Basically, I'm hoping that this also helps maybe some people or some guys come forward and talk about this, because emotional abuse is still abuse, and in some ways it's even more insidious than physical abuse because you don't see actual marks from it. And I think this is something that is swept under the rug far more than it should be, and I don't think that's a good thing. So I'm going to do this, and by doing this, I mean I went and I grabbed a drink. Suddenly, soda. Anyway, so how do I put this? I do want to give fair warning. I'm going to be talking about emotional abuse, and some of it is pretty messed up. So if I don't know, if like emotional abuse or potential strong language is a thing for you that you aren't comfortable with, like seeing or hearing about, you may want to take a pass on this one, because like I said, at this point this is kind of therapy for me, so I'm not planning on pulling any punches or holding anything back. So that's your warning. If you do choose to continue, then I appreciate it. So, with that said, where do we start? So emotional abuse, like I mentioned before, is it's harder to detect than physical. Obviously, emotional abuse is emotional, it's not physical. It depends on that person either having like a mental breakdown or like coming clean about before anyone truly knows that it's there. Now, in my previous job, where I was a call center rep, um, I definitely started breaking down, because certain things were happening that really affected me. And even now, it feels like I'm almost trying to sweep it under the rug in a way, which I know isn't healthy. So, let's now again. Baby Ty, stop that. Sorry about that. Now, again, I'm not going to be pulling any punches, and I'm going to be telling the truth. I know the truth doesn't always make me look good, and that's fine. I'm not saying this to make myself look good. I'm saying this to get it off my chest and to hopefully bring some awareness to it. So, at the beginning, it was years ago. I was living in Maryland, and I was working for Comcast, and I was living with my then girlfriend. We had purchased a house together, but I felt like we'd been falling apart, and I ended up cheating on that girlfriend with this woman, which, yeah, no, it wasn't right. I should have actually communicated with my then girlfriend, and it shouldn't have happened. Straight up and down, it should not have happened. I admit that. And it was a shitty thing of me to do. That all said, it's in the past. But basically, while I was still living with her, it was kind of awkward, and yeah, the new person didn't exactly. Baby Ty. Baby Ty. Do I need to throw something? Didn't exactly make it any easier for me. However, at the time I was regularly driving down to Virginia, about 2.5 hours one way, to go to lunch with her. Think about that. I'd be driving 5 hours round trip just to go to lunch, because that's what she wanted. I didn't see anything wrong with that. She came up to Maryland a total of one time. That was it. But I always was getting heat for not being committed, or she felt that I wasn't putting everything into it, but I was driving crazy amounts of time. When needed, we would get a hotel that I would pay for every time. And that kind of set the pattern for the relationship in a way. I was constantly giving. However, moving on. When I moved down here, it was because I checked myself into a mental institution because I'd started having panic attacks, which I literally never had before in my life. And to be fair, she did try and help me through that. She helped me get checked into the mental institution and everything. And, yeah. And I stayed down here. I basically was on disability from work. So I was going through my savings and using all of those up. I was also getting some help from my parents, and while I wasn't giving her money for rent, what I was doing was, if there were groceries, I paid for them. If we were going out, I paid. If her daughter needed something, I'd get it. When she said she wanted furniture, I paid for it. Guess whose credit it went on? And the whole time, it was, the impression given to me was that no matter what, it wasn't good enough. The way that she'd been raised was definitely not traditional, and while I could go and just air all of her dirty laundry right now, which, again, I'm being completely honest, I am very tempted to do. I don't think that would be right, and just me as a man, I'm not trying to do that. But she was raised in a very non-traditional way, so for whatever reason, she never saw that as contributing. I wasn't raised the same way as she was, and I constantly got flack for that. However, I tried. I was, again, I'll say it straight up, I was not used to, like, washing dishes and, like, cleaning a house and everything, but I learned how. I did laundry, I folded laundry, I, took care of the kids, everything. And later on in the relationship, basically, she would make me... It got to the point where Heisenberg! You stop that! Psst! Stop it. You bag-chewing bastard. Yeah. Hey! Berg! Why? Why do they not listen? Stupid cats. So, that's where it kind of all came from. Oh my God, Berg! Yeah! I was always given the impression that nothing I did was good enough. Heisenberg! Stop! Yeah, what? What? Yeah! Jesus. I guess that's gonna keep this from getting too serious. Anyway, I was always given the impression that no matter what I did, it was never good enough. I was never romantic enough. I sent flowers to her work. This was all stuff that I did without prompting. I would send flowers to her work. I always went overboard whenever it was like Mother's Day or something. Jesus. Like, I tried to have surprises for her, like, just not always physical things, but like, nice little surprises. Like for, oh God, I think it was her birthday, I did like a scavenger hunt. I actually put a lot of time and effort into it. But, again, I was like, I had kind of tunnel vision. I wasn't starting to see that even this early, the seeds were being planted for me to get my sense of self-worth entirely from her. That's where it became incredibly unhealthy, because I started getting to the point where I didn't think I was good enough at all in any way. And like some of the things that you would say, like, there were little put downs here and there, and it would bother me because it wouldn't get addressed. And if I said that, like, it hurt my feelings, I'd get ridiculed for having feelings. Then her daughter falsely accused me of molesting her. This was someone that had issues that I helped to take in. And because of, like, disciplinary stuff, we had to, take away your phone. And eventually she didn't like that enough to the point where she falsely accused me of attempting to molest her. I made the decision to move back temporarily to Maryland because I didn't want to disrupt her life anymore, like having the youngest daughter have to, like, leave. Burgess! So I, at this point, was in Maryland with my parents, making that 2.5 hour commute to work. That was not fun. But I didn't complain. This was right around when, yeah. Berg. This was right around when I started to see something maybe wrong. Because afterwards, after the investigation, after, I was found innocent, because nothing happened. Keep in mind, I was terrified this whole time. Because, and I don't know how true this is, but the way that I've been taught, like, it's pretty much, if you get accused, you're screwed. Like, you're going to jail. She even was saying, I hope he gets to go to jail and gets raped to death. Like, I was terrified. And, she didn't care. Like, if I brought up that I was scared, she would say, well, I mean, it's my daughter and blah, blah, blah. Like, that, I feel, was definitely when, like, some rifts started occurring. Then afterwards, I was upset, and I believe that was a perfectly normal response. But if I tried to talk to her about it, I got literally yelled at and told that I didn't understand because I didn't have any kids, but that was still her daughter, so I had to suck it up and just move on. That's not something you really move on from. Like, I went through a polygraph for that. That was scary as shit. I can honestly say that was one of the scariest times of my life. Because even though I know I didn't do anything, like, from everything I've seen, everything I've read, the odds were still incredibly against me. But it didn't matter. And, afterwards, if I tried to, mention it, I got ridiculed, I got ignored, I got, punished, honestly. Yeah. From there, things definitely started going downhill. For example, she had not quite an ex, but someone that she'd been intimate with that, in the past, that, she still communicated with, that, I understood, but when she started hiding the phone from me, then I was kind of like, okay, what's going on? And personally, I have my suspicions that something was going on there, that I'm not going to speculate on, but just going from her pattern of behavior and the fact that she was lying to me about, like I would, a couple of times I came home and, like, she'd act like she wasn't doing anything, but she was just, like, on a Skype call. Like, I walk in and I see the thing on her phone, like, come on. But she would literally say, like, oh, nothing. Nothing at all. That was a little messed up. Especially when, like, I glanced over a couple times and noticed she was talking shit about me. And then she would also, talk shit about me to her mom in Spanish. And I don't know if she thought that I just straight up couldn't understand her or what, but I made it clear a couple of times, like, hey, I know what you're saying. Like, if you have an issue with me, please talk to me about it. Don't, like, talk to someone else and get, like, resentment building up. Like, I feel like that's common sense. But, no. That continued to happen. And just, it was a mess. Even towards the end, I feel like I was being used, to be completely honest. We were still saying I love you to each other, and I meant it. She didn't. I don't know, like, why she didn't feel the urge to actually come out and talk to me. Because it'd be one thing if she sat me down and actually talked to me about it, but at that point, she was doing things like, for example, every man knows if there's some things you don't want to hear, it's, we need to talk. Like, that's never good. And it got to the point where that was like a trigger phrase for me, where it would make me have a panic attack. Literally, like, if she texted me, we need to talk, and it was sometime when I couldn't, like if I was at work, instant panic attack. Especially when she started staying out all night. Saying like, oh, I'm gonna stay in a hotel. Like, a couple nights she said, I'm gonna stay in a hotel, I just need some time alone, blah, 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 blah. Don't call me, don't text me. I'm gonna be on my own, I just need time alone. Anyone else see anything weird about that? Yeah. So, at that point, I kind of, like, I was still trying to work with it. So, I let that go. Because I'm dumb. Like, I literally, all of the signs were there that she was having an affair. And I ignored them. I did whatever I needed to do to work with her, because I thought that we were still trying to make it work, but apparently she had given up quite a few months earlier. And she never really went for, like, the emotional stuff. Like, I could say, like, the sweetest things I could to her, and it would just go, aw. But she liked it when I bought her stuff. So, again, like, I should have been saving up money, honestly, but instead I was spending it all on her. Trying to show her, like, hey, I'm invested in this. I was helping out with bills and then some. I wasn't sleeping some nights because I would stay up so I could take her daughter to school in the morning. Like, at the time, I was working a job where I got off at 11:45 at night. Excuse me. Would still be up at 6 in the morning to take her daughter to school. Usually I wouldn't get to bed until at least 2. And this definitely spiraled out of control. I'll say it. I feel like I was being used for money. Quite a bit of the time. Whenever I accomplished something, didn't matter. I was there for convenience. Uh, Perfect example. When we were on our second anniversary, we went down to Florida. Uh, I stayed out in the sun way too long because I wanted to stay with her, and she said I wasn't getting burned. Um, I actually did get burned to the point where I swelled up, I blistered. Um, I could barely walk because like my knees and legs were so swollen and painful. Um, and that was like internal pain. That wasn't the burn. The burn itself was really bad too. Um, but she decided last minute that she wanted to buy a new car because there was a sale going on. Um, so we went, and sure enough, she bought a new car. But oh my god, I can't remember why, but she didn't trade her old one in. Guess who? Keep in mind, my legs were not working properly. Got to drive her old car all the way back up to Maryland. Not the new one with, more room for, someone that's taller than her, like me, even though I'm not really tall, to, stretch. Yeah. That was not fun. But I did it without any complaints. Because that was me. And I figured I'd, save what I feel was one of the worst and most manipulative things for last. Aside from the fact that she was pretty constantly talking badly about my family, which with anyone else I would have reacted extremely negatively. With her, I was trying to understand it. Even though, we were offering to help her out with... Again, I'm not trying to air her dirty laundry, but we were trying to help out with certain legal issues that she'd had, shall we say. But it didn't matter because my family was dumb to her. However, the most manipulative thing, which kind of seems appropriate. Why? Considering I'm 2 weeks past being 6 months sober. Yeah, 6 months, 6 years sober. 6 months is far less impressive. It was Cinco de Mayo. And, she hadn't been feeling good. And, I was helping take care of her. And she started saying that she really wanted a margarita. I said, okay, well, let's go out and get you a margarita then. She didn't want to go out. So I was like, well, then how do you want a margarita? Like, then she would say, no, it's fine, I'm not feeling good anyway, blah, blah. But I really want a margarita. And it got to the point where eventually just being me, I straight up did not think she would take me up on this, but I was willing to if she did. I offered to go and buy stuff for a margarita for her. And she, made the obligatory, no, that's okay, noises. But I really want a margarita. Until I was just like, look, just seriously, I'll go do it for you. She says, fine. So I go to the ABC store, which is basically a liquor store, the only ones here, and I got the stuff for her to make a margarita, which she'd been keeping alcohol in the house, which I was not a fan of, especially keeping it like right out where I could see it. Like, that's really not cool. Um, but I went out and I bought it for her, and I was having a panic attack pretty much the whole time. I was shaking through the entire endeavor. Got back, and she wanted me to make it for her. So I made her a margarita. And it was one of the hardest things in the world to not drink any myself. That was a special kind of hell. And I really wish I could say, well, at least I know that I could resist temptation. And I did. But it was bad enough that I don't even see that as a positive. So yeah, I made her a margarita. No thank you or anything. Then certain things happened later that night that, well, to be blunt, can only really be counted as rape. Which was awesome. Anyway, after this whole relationship, my self-esteem and idea of self-worth was, just talking about this is giving me a headache, was non-existent. Like, I thought I was worthless. Legitimately. I went through some very, very, very dark times. And I hid it as best I could, but for a couple of months every night I was crying myself to sleep. I started seriously considering hurting myself or ending my life. And I don't mean like a stray thought, I mean at one point I started writing a note. It was that bad. And she'd gotten me to the point where I felt so closed off from everyone and so worthless that I thought that was okay. I didn't feel like I had anyone that would miss me. I didn't feel like I had anyone that I could go to talk about it. And, yeah. That was definitely wrong of me. I know now, that's I see, like, after I saw what it was like to date other people and everything, and eventually got into like a long-term relationship, I started to see, like, I'm awesome. Like, all this stuff that I was doing and was not getting thanks is apparently so over the top that it's insane. Which I didn't know at the time. But I still, like, if someone says we need to talk, and this is something that I've had to tell several people, that gets me. Like, to this day, if someone texts me we need to talk, like, my heart will start racing, I'll start feeling like I can't breathe. It's not a fun time. Where did I put my drink? Not a fun time. And it was just years of just getting put down, never being told I was good enough. And that in itself is its own type of abuse. If you're in a relationship with someone and you actually care about them, and they are good to you, tell them. You have no idea how much just saying, hey, I really appreciate, like, everything you've done, that can mean so much. I've, like, I've obviously started to recover from all of the crap that I went through. But it has been hard. It still is hard. I mean, right now I'm working a part-time job, not making much money, and I'm getting assistance where I can. I'm not gonna lie, that does kind of make me question my self-worth, and sometimes I do have those moments where I kind of go back and start thinking, like, what if? But then I kind of snap out of it. Basically, that was, I don't know, opening the door on the fact that emotional abuse is still a thing and that it's incredibly disruptive. I don't know. I'm just hoping someone out there learned from this. What I'm gonna do though is, because there's also some lighter stuff that's been happening, I'm gonna make another video, post both of these at the same time, just so you know there's some lighthearted stuff to go. Why am I like to go with the more downer stuff. So yeah, if you've got any stories of your own, or if you've got any questions or comments or anything, leave a comment. I've been through a lot, and to be completely honest, if you've been through something similar, or if you're going through something similar, or like recovery or anything, I'm here. Like, you can send me a private message or whatever, or just leave a comment and say like, hey, you know, I need someone to talk to, and I'll get in touch. Because I've been there. And anyone who feels like they need help, you're not alone. If absolutely nothing else, I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here to help however I can. So, with that more somber message than usual, Moon Mike, out.